Interesting. So the way we cooked the meatball, because for those who haven't seen the meatball, it's about the size of a child's head. And I know that because I have 2 3-year-old kids, and we were standing them side by side with the meatball. But you can't cook a meatball that big just by sticking it in the oven. So we had to warm it up to a reasonable temperature in the oven, and then we blowtorched the outside. And when we blowtorched the outside of the meatball, the aroma that we got off it, it was like nothing that I've smelt in terms of lamb or chicken or beef. And if I had to compare it to anything, the closest we could come up with was crocodile.
You're like a crocodile?
Yes, crocodile, which is really unusual. And the reason why we know that it smells a bit like crocodile is that one of the other projects and products that we're working on, it contains crocodile cells. So we've recently been doing a lot of testing and tasting of crocodile cells. And it's funny that the aroma is so similar to that.
Doctor, are people going to be a bit scared coming round to your house for dinner?
Quite possibly, but they won't be bored.
And talk us through the timeline for the number of tests you have to carry out before the big bite, and more importantly, who is going to take the first bite?
Look, we're not sure whether we're ever going to take the mammoth meat to market and whether we're ever going to commercialise it. Never say never. But the key purpose of this is to draw attention to this new technology of cultured meat, being able to produce meat in a way that doesn't involve the animal.
And you'll be aware.
Population growth sort of due to hit 10 billion within the next 20 years. Sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry, our lines are jumping around, aren't they? And, final question. You might have seen that the Italian government's backed a bill which would ban lab-grown meat from the country if that was passed. So there is significant resistance to some of the ideas you're proposing.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And I think that that's a really big missed opportunity for Italy. I mean, why try to ban something that has yet to be regulated, tested, tasted, and approved? Why not let people taste it? And if Italians hate cultured meat, no one's going to eat it and the industry's going to fail. But it feels a bit draconian to ban something before it's even sort of got started.
Dr. James Ryle, Chief Scientific Officer and Val, maker of the mammoth meatball, which may in the end taste like lamb or like chicken or like crocodile, we will have to find out. James Reynolds with you on OS from the BBC. It's now about 23 minutes past 6 in Italy, in Rome and in Vatican City. I can just look at those live pictures fed by the Reuters news agency, which shows St. Peter's Basilica, St. Peter's Square, a reasonably empty area. on in Italy covering the Vatican for cruxnow.com website. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course for Pope Francis and for those cardinals that Lisa was talking about, it's a very important time in the Catholic calendar as Easter approaches in just over a week's time, a time when the Pope would normally exit the Vatican and head for a ceremony in the Colosseum, just a few minutes drive away across the Tiber River in Rome, the most important time of year for Christians and of course for the Pope himself. So that is something that the Pope, if he is well enough, would want to take part in himself and lead those festivities in his own right. I'm James Reynolds, here in the BBC's main newsroom as journalists all around me work to their deadlines. Do stay with us.
Welcome to the BBC World Service. In 30 minutes, we join the Outlook team.
When Bobby was a child, he was often unwell, so music kept him company, and he loved to sing. As an adult, his work as a Jackie Wilson tribute act plugged Bobby into his family history in a way that he never could have imagined.
After that, on today's Witness History, we'll find out about the first photo sent on the phone.
And that really made a difference, is that some of the key technologists of the time, journalists, they got it, and I could get an email back from them, how do you do that?
At bbcworldservice.com, Simon discusses how Finland is managing its relationship with Russia.
Our national threat assessment is still as the same as over a year ago, before Russians attacked Ukraine. Since the birth of Finland, we have been preparing for war.
You can hear more episodes at bbcworldservice.com/assignments.
Hello, this is James Reynolds, live from the BBC's main newsroom in London. Welcome to OS. In the wake of the school shooting this week in Nashville, Tennessee, which killed 6 people, including 3 9-year-old kids, we want to hear from parents in the United States. We, a little earlier, spoke to 2 mothers. I asked them what's it like sending their kids to school, and we'll hear their thoughts on the conversations they have with their kids and their thoughts about gun violence and safety.
BBC News with Danielle Jałowiecka. Brazil's far-right former President Jair Bolsonaro has returned to his home country after 3 months of self-imposed exile in the United States. Loyalists said he would re-galvanize the opposition against President Lula da Silva. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said he's very concerned about the arrest in Russia of a Wall Street Journal reporter who's been accused of spying. A Russian court has remanded Evan Gershkovich in custody for 2 months pending an investigation. A Russian man who's been sentenced to 2 years in jail after his schoolgirl daughter drew an anti-war picture has been detained in Belarus. Alexei Moskalyov escaped house arrest in Russia 2 days ago, shortly before he was found guilty of discrediting the army. 4 bank executives who helped a close associate of President Putin move millions of dollars through a Swiss branch of Russia's Gazprom bank have been found guilty of a lack of due diligence. The Swiss court fined the 4 unnamed bankers. The head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has warned that China's ruling Communist Party intends to systemically change the international order to put China at its centre. Military officials in the US have confirmed that 9 service members were killed when 2 Army helicopters crashed in Kentucky. The 2 Black Hawk helicopters went down during a training exercise. The Spanish Parliament has approved government-proposed pension reforms under which high earners and employers will pay increased contributions. The left-wing coalition says the changes provide stability. A rare first-generation iPhone in its original packaging is going up for auction, with bids kicking off at over $30,000. The list price when the device launched in 2007 was just $599. BBC News.
James Reynolds with you on OS from the BBC. I report to you from a white table and red microphone in the centre of the BBC's main newsroom here, where colleagues all around me are preparing reports, graphic sequences as we sometimes call them, for the BBC's main evening outlet, some of which begin in about 27 minutes and 5 seconds, and all of us are under the regime of the clock. Wherever you go here, there are digital clocks letting people know that if you miss something by a second, you might as well miss it by an hour. Everything has to come in on time in order for news bulletins to work. And as we
is right next door to the Covenant Church and school. I mean, I can walk over there in 2 minutes. My son, who's 11 years old in 4th grade, is 2 miles. His school's 2 miles from there, and my daughter is in 7th grade, and she's 13, and her school is about 5 miles away. I picked up my son first from school, and I had to tell him before we even left school, because our neighborhood is so close that there were police all over the main street, and actually the main street was blocked off, that I had to ask for the cones to be moved so I could enter my neighborhood when I was coming and going. So it was not something that I could wait till we were at home and comfortable. And we had been given information from our school counselor on, things to say. Don't give too much information, try not to show too much emotion. They didn't want us to scare the children or create, any more anxiety. And, just kind of let them lead the conversation. And so I just told him that, there was something I had to let him know, that when we got home, there were going to be a lot of police cars in our area, and that there had been a shooting at the school. And I just left it at that and let him, ask me questions about it. And I just answered them honestly. And then, later in the day, just reinforced that his school is safe, just trying to make him feel safe. That, this was something that was sadly specific to this school, and that there were no other schools involved, and, let him know that my husband and I are there for him to talk to, or, the teachers at school or people in the administration, and, if he needed outside help, then we could get that for him. So
Did you get the sense he was reassured by the love and support you gave him?
I do. They have, ever since the Uvalde shooting, they have had a school resource officer, which is a city police officer at the school. So he is typically outside of the school during the day. He's always there in the morning. We see him at drop-off. And my son did notice that day, they obviously didn't know what was going on, but they were not allowed to go out for recess. And he did notice that the police officer was in the school more on Monday. And that has brought him a sense of feeling safe. So, we just reassure him, and even my daughter, it's a different conversation with her, but we just keep reassuring them that they are safe, and that we are here for them, and if they need to talk about it. And that's the most important thing, I think, at this point, is for them to feel safe and know that if they do have any fears, that they can talk to somebody about it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Elizabeth. And of course, Nancy's with us, mother of 3 in Texas. You were further, of course, from the Nashville shooting, but we can't, of course, forget that Uvalde, the shooting, was in your state, in Texas, last year. And your thoughts as you heard of this latest attack in Nashville, and conversations with your own kids?
When the latest attack happened here in Nashville, I quickly scanned the news article, because I'm so used to these things happening in Texas, and because of that conditioning, I always immediately just say, okay, be calm, try not to react, break it down, gather as much information as possible.